My beloved child, stop scrolling and listen closely, because what you are about to hear was meant to reach you at this exact moment. Something has shifted in the unseen, and the person connected to your heart has finally spoken words they had kept buried for far too long. Their confession was not casual. It was not a passing thought. It was not something they said to gain attention. It was a truth so honest, so unexpected, and so deeply connected to you that the people who heard it were left completely speechless. Pause here for a moment, because heaven does not bring a message like this without purpose. Your soulmate has been carrying a private vision of marriage, commitment, and a future beside you, but fear kept that vision hidden. They tried to silence it. They tried to convince themselves that the timing was wrong. They tried to act as if their emotions were under control. Yet every attempt to move away from what they felt only brought them closer to the truth. The more they resisted, the clearer your place in their life became. There was a conversation recently, one that began in an ordinary way. No one expected anything unusual to happen. People were speaking about relationships, choices, and what it means to truly know when someone is right for you. Your soulmate remained quiet at first. They listened while others shared opinions. Some spoke about convenience. Some spoke about appearances. Some spoke about choosing the safest possible path. But inside your soulmate, something powerful was rising. They had heard enough. For a long time, they allowed other voices to shape their decisions. They listened to people who did not understand their heart. They accepted advice from those who only saw the surface. They let fear speak louder than love, and they nearly convinced themselves that silence was easier than honesty. But on that day, something changed. A question was asked, and that question opened the door they had been trying to keep closed. Someone looked directly at them and asked, if you could choose the person you truly wanted to marry, without worrying about anyone's opinion, who would it be? The room became still. Your soulmate did not answer immediately. Their eyes lowered. Their breathing changed. Their mind filled with memories of you. They remembered your voice, your patience, your strength, and the way your presence had touched something within them that no one else could reach. They remembered moments you may have considered small, but those moments had become sacred in their heart. A kind word. A quiet understanding. The way you remained yourself even when life tried to make you doubt your worth. Then they lifted their head. And they said your name. No one expected it. That is why people were speechless. Do not move away from this message now, because the name was only the beginning. What followed carried an even deeper truth. Your soulmate did not simply admit that they cared about you. They did not speak vaguely or hide behind uncertain language. They confessed that when they imagined marriage, it was your face they saw. When they imagined building a home filled with peace, laughter, and loyalty, it was your presence they felt. When they imagined growing through every season of life, it was your hand they wanted to hold. Some people in that room had believed your soulmate had moved on. Others thought they were interested in someone else. A few had even assumed that the connection between you had faded. But the confession shattered every assumption. Your soulmate revealed that no matter how much distance, silence, or confusion appeared between you, the feeling never disappeared. It changed shape. It became quieter. It moved deeper. But it remained. This is what heaven wants you to understand. Real connection does not always reveal itself through constant communication. Sometimes it reveals itself through what a person cannot forget. Your soulmate may have gone through days when they tried not to think of you, yet something always brought you back to their mind. A song. A place. A familiar phrase. A moment of stillness late at night. Even in busy rooms, your memory found them. They began to notice something impossible to ignore. Every future they imagined without you felt incomplete. They could picture success. They could picture travel. They could picture achievements. But something was missing from every vision, and eventually they realized that missing piece was not excitement, status, or approval. It was you. Stay with these words, because something greater is waiting to be revealed. Your soulmate's confession was not only about wanting marriage. It was also about regret. They admitted that they had been afraid of how deeply they felt. They confessed that your presence made them see themselves more honestly. You awakened dreams they had buried. You made them question whether they had been settling for a life that looked acceptable but did not feel true. Your soulmate told those around them that you were not merely someone they admired. You were the person who made commitment feel meaningful. Before you, marriage may have seemed like a distant idea or a social expectation. But after knowing you, it became personal. It became real. It became something they could imagine with warmth rather than pressure. One person asked them, "Then why have you remained silent?" That question struck deeply. Your soulmate looked away, because the answer was not easy. They had remained silent because they feared rejection. They feared that too much time had passed. They feared that you had already closed the door. They feared that their hesitation had caused a wound too deep to repair. Most of all, they feared that speaking the truth would change everything. And they were right. The truth has already begun changing everything. The moment your soulmate spoke your name, the atmosphere shifted. Those who had doubted the connection began to see it differently. Those who had encouraged your soulmate to choose someone more convenient suddenly had no words. They could hear the certainty in the confession. This was not fantasy. This was not impulsive emotion. It was the result of a long inner struggle finally reaching its breaking point. For months, perhaps longer, your soulmate had been gathering evidence within their own heart. They compared what they felt for you with every other connection. They noticed that conversations with others did not carry the same depth. Smiles did not feel the same. Even kindness from others could not replace the sense of recognition they felt with you. There is a difference between attraction and recognition. Attraction can be quick, bright, and temporary. Recognition feels ancient. It feels like finding something your spirit has been searching for without knowing its name. That is what frightened your soulmate. They did not know how to explain why your energy felt familiar. They only knew that being close to you stirred both peace and intensity. Heaven allowed this realization to grow slowly because your soulmate needed to become strong enough to honor it. A confession made too soon might have been filled with uncertainty. A promise made before inner growth might have broken under pressure. But something is different now. Your soulmate is no longer asking whether the feeling is real. They are asking what they must do about it. Do not skip this moment. The next part of the confession left even the closest people around them stunned. Your soulmate admitted that they had imagined the exact moment they would ask you to share a life with them. They had thought about the words they would say. They had pictured your reaction. They had imagined their hands trembling as they finally revealed everything. They confessed that they did not want a performance. They did not want a perfect scene created for strangers to admire. They wanted something honest. A quiet moment where nothing stood between your heart and theirs. They wanted to look into your eyes and tell you that every delay had taught them what truly mattered. Someone laughed softly and asked whether they were serious. Your soulmate did not laugh. They answered, "I have never been more serious about anything." The room fell silent again. This is why the confession became unforgettable. People expected uncertainty, but they heard conviction. They expected a passing romantic thought, but they heard the voice of someone who had already made an inner decision. Your soulmate may not have acted outwardly yet, but something within them has chosen you. There are choices made with the mind, and there are choices made at the level of the soul. The mind calculates. It asks what others will say. It worries about timing. It searches for guarantees. The soul recognizes. It knows when something is rare. It knows when a person has entered your life for a reason greater than comfort. Your soulmate tried to live only through logic, but the truth kept returning. They asked themselves why they remembered the details of your words. Why they felt protective of your dreams. Why your happiness mattered even during periods of distance. Why the idea of losing you permanently brought a heaviness they could not explain. Then one night, a realization arrived with unusual clarity. They saw that their fear was not proof that the connection was wrong. Their fear was proof that it mattered. You were not easy to dismiss because you were not ordinary to them. Something else was revealed during that conversation, and this is where the energy grew even more intense. Your soulmate admitted that there was a specific moment when they knew you could be the person they married. It was not during a grand celebration. It was not when you looked perfect or when everything felt effortless. It was during a moment when you showed your true character. Perhaps you listened when they expected judgment. Perhaps you remained gentle when you had every reason to withdraw. Perhaps you stood strong while quietly carrying your own pain. Whatever the moment was, it changed the way they saw you. They realized that your beauty was not limited to appearance. It lived in your loyalty, your courage, your compassion, and the way you continued to give light without demanding recognition. Your soulmate told those around them, "That was the moment I saw who they really were." The confession did not end there. They said they had met many people who could create excitement, but very few who could create peace. They had known people who admired what they could offer, but you saw who they were beneath the image. You noticed what others overlooked. Even when they did not know how to explain themselves, something in you seemed to understand. This understanding became the foundation of their vision of marriage. Your soulmate does not simply want to celebrate good moments with you. They want to face real life beside you. They want to be present when days are difficult. They want to become someone you can rely on, not only someone who speaks beautiful words. That desire surprised the people around them because your soulmate had not always spoken this way. In the past, they may have avoided serious conversations. They may have changed the subject whenever the future was mentioned. They may have acted independent, detached, or uncertain. Yet now they were describing commitment with a clarity no one had heard before. The reason is simple, but powerful: they were not afraid of marriage itself. They were afraid of choosing the wrong person. With you, the fear has changed. Now they are afraid of waiting too long. Let that truth settle. Your soulmate senses that time is moving. They know that hearts cannot remain suspended forever. They know you have your own journey, your own choices, and your own future. They understand that silence may be mistaken for indifference. This realization has created a new urgency within them. Someone in the room asked, "Do they know any of this?" Your soulmate became quiet. That silence revealed everything. They knew that you might not know. They knew their behavior may have confused you. They knew you may have questioned whether the connection mattered to them at all. And for the first time, they were forced to see the situation through your eyes. They realized that while they had been protecting themselves from vulnerability, you may have been carrying unanswered questions. While they waited for certainty, you may have been learning to release what did not openly choose you. While they kept their feelings hidden, you may have believed there were no feelings to hide. The thought shook them. This is where regret entered the confession. Your soulmate admitted that they had underestimated the cost of silence. They thought they had more time. They assumed the connection would wait exactly where they left it. But hearts are not objects placed on a shelf. They grow. They heal. They awaken. And your soulmate now knows that you are becoming stronger. Heaven has been working in you too. You have endured moments that taught you not to chase confusion. You have learned that love should not require you to abandon your dignity. You have begun to recognize the difference between a meaningful connection and an unavailable person. This growth is changing the energy between you, because your soulmate can feel that you are no longer standing still. Your light is moving forward. That is why their confession came now. Something in them sensed the shift. They could feel that the old way of hiding would no longer work. They knew that if they wanted a future with you, they would need to step into honesty. Not someday. Not when every circumstance became perfect. But soon. The people who heard the confession began asking questions. What would they say to you? How would they repair the distance? Were they truly ready for the responsibility of commitment? Your soulmate answered carefully. They did not pretend to have every detail solved, but one thing was clear: they were no longer willing to deny what they wanted. They said, "I want a life that feels true, and I cannot imagine that life without them." Those words carried weight. They were not only confessing love. They were rejecting the false version of themselves that had been built around fear. They were admitting that approval could no longer be more important than authenticity. They were choosing the possibility of a real future over the comfort of emotional hiding. Pause again, because this message is not asking you to chase, force, or prove anything. Heaven is revealing what has been happening beneath the surface, but your path must remain grounded in self-respect. A soulmate connection is not an invitation to lose yourself. The right union will meet you in truth. Your soulmate knows this now. They understand that a confession spoken to others is not enough. Eventually, the truth must reach you. They know that private feelings do not create a shared future unless they become honest action. This is the threshold they are standing at. And something happened after the room became quiet. One person, someone whose opinion your soulmate values deeply, looked at them and said, "Then you already know what you have to do." Your soulmate did not answer, but their expression changed. It was the look of someone who had reached a decision. For the rest of that evening, they spoke less. Yet inside, everything was moving. They replayed the conversation. They imagined speaking directly to you. They considered all the words they had delayed. They began to understand that the perfect message did not need to be flawless. It only needed to be true. Later, when they were alone, they opened something connected to you. It may have been an old conversation, a photograph, a saved note, or a memory they had avoided revisiting. Their heart reacted immediately. Not with chaos, but with recognition. They whispered your name. Then they began writing. Do not leave now, because what they wrote was not a simple greeting. It was not a casual attempt to return. It was the beginning of the confession they had been rehearsing in silence for far too long. They wrote about the first moment they realized your presence was different. They wrote about the distance, the fear, and the truth they could no longer deny. They wrote that they had imagined marriage but had been too afraid to tell you. They wrote that they did not expect you to forget what had happened. They only hoped you would allow them to speak honestly. But then they stopped. Their hand remained over the message. The words were there. The truth was ready. Yet one final fear rose inside them. What if you had already chosen to move on? For several minutes, they stared at the screen. They considered deleting everything. They wondered whether their confession had come too late. They remembered all the moments when they could have spoken but did not. Then something unexpected happened. A sign appeared. It was small enough that another person might have dismissed it, but to your soulmate, it felt impossible to ignore. A phrase connected to you appeared at the exact moment they were about to erase the message. A memory returned with startling clarity. Or perhaps your name appeared somewhere without warning. Your soulmate froze. They felt as though heaven had answered the question they had been too afraid to ask. Do not skip the next revelation, because this was the moment their hesitation began turning into action. They read the message again, but this time they changed one line. That line transformed the entire confession from a memory into a promise. They wrote, I do not want to keep imagining a future with you. I want to become brave enough to build it. And then they added something no one had expected them to say, not their friends, not their family, and perhaps not even themselves. They wrote that they had already made a decision about marriage. But before they could send the message, a name appeared on their phone. Someone was calling. It was the one person who knew a secret about your soulmate's future plans, a secret that had not yet been revealed in the room, and what they said during that call would change the meaning of the entire confession.